I'm Lucy Farron CCT, and I'm here drawing the tiles for day 21 of the 100-day project for 2022, which is my periodic Table of Tangles. This is for my week 3 roundup video, and this morning I am looking at Doodah, Shattuck and Mia. And I picked these three because there are similarities between them. And I'm going to start with Doodah. I think it's the simplest. So Doodah is usually drawn as a ribbon tangle. So we'll start with a ribbon across the middle here. And it's a straight line tangle mostly. But you can jazz it up with other little features if you want to. Even things like rounding to give it a different look. And we're going to stick with the basics today. I'm going to aura the edges, and I'll do that for the other two tangles as well. And then we'll look at what goes in this. Well, to me this always feels like a ribbon, but it's really a border tangle. Okay, so Doodah's made of straight lines which kind of aura in an interesting way. It's called Doodah because it kind of is a bit reminiscent of what a zip looks like, so zippity doodah. So the way I draw it, and not everybody draws it in the same way, is that I come across from the left and then I come back from the right. And so it builds up a kind of rhythm. Some people draw it all in the same direction. The thing to remember is to leave a little gap when you're drawing your line across before you get to the other side. So I'm going to start just in the kind of the wide space here, and we're going across and leaving a little gap and then back, and then just repeat that. So the motif here is a kind of a straight line, or maybe the pair of lines, which then repeats in a linear fashion along the border, backwards and forwards. To fill the space, I'm just going to fill this little bit up here. And that is Doodah. Simple as that. Okay. So we're going to look also at Mia. Now Mia is going to start in exactly the same way as I started Doodah, with some edges for the ribbon, if you like, the border. And again, I'm going to aura these. You could add something different along your edges to kind of finish off the edge of Mia. Sometimes you see it with little perfs, but for today I'm going to leave it like this, the edge the same as Doodah, just to show the similarities there. And then once you've got your ribbon in place, we have a gentle S-curve down the middle, kind of splitting this into two. And then again, we've got some straight line auras. So what we're doing with these is we are adding a straight line at a bit of an angle, and then just auraing. I've started in the middle, which is a bit of a strange place to start, but I'll turn my tile and go back in the other direction in a minute to finish that edge off. So even though doodah and mirror are usually drawn as sort of singular borders or ribbons, there's no reason why you couldn't just do another one next to it. That's an option, isn't it? So then we go back in the other direction, kind of sort of 90 degrees to the, doesn't have to be, but make it like a V shape if you look at both auras together. You don't have to join these up at all. You wouldn't notice any difference whether they were lined up or not, I don't think. It would be too tricky to focus in on lining those up. And also sometimes if mirror is a bit more kind of curvy, you would lose the ability to do that. So that's Mia and Doodah. Similar but different. And then we're going to finish with Shattuck. Again, its similarities in that it can be used as a ribbon, although originally it was just designed as a filler with sort of dividing lines, dividing up the strips. So I'm going to draw it as a ribbon today. And then decide maybe whether I want to fill the tile later. I like it as a ribbon today to kind of demonstrate its similarity to the other two. Now, we have some options with Shattuck in that it can be drawn either with straight lines or kind of C-shaped curves. I'm going to stick to the straight line. I think you can always take a straight line and curve it slightly. That's always an option. You can't always straighten out a curvy line in a tangle and create the same thing. So for example, in Crescent Moon, if you straightened out the curve, it just wouldn't work in the same way. So I think kind of the simplest line type is a straight line. So I'm going to go for a straight line. And what we do with Shattuck is we come across at an angle and then back. So it's like a zigzag. So people do this in different ways. Some people like to create the zigzag first. Some people like to create one line at a time and then aura back from there. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. Or you can even do it in the other way. You can start auraing in the small place and aura up till you get to the other side. So then we zigzag, kind of zigzagging back, and we're auraing. So if you do draw kind of more than one strip of Shattuck or next to each other, you get the option of lining up your lines to create kind of meta patterns going across. But, you know, maybe we'll do that later. but for now I'm going to leave Shattuck just as one ribbon of Shattuck for today. And I will be going through all the tiles drawn over the last week in a slightly different location where they're laid out in just a minute. I will see you then. Hello and welcome to the second part of my week 3 roundup of the periodic table of tangles for the 100-day project. I'm going to talk through all the tangles I've done this week. You can see I haven't got them laid out in the full table just because it's getting huge and things just keep shifting around. So I'm going to just chat through some kind of connections that I've found between tangles. I've got them positioned like this. You know, that's possibly going to change again as I draw more tangles. The more I draw, the more I find new connections, and the more I realise maybe some that I thought were similar aren't as similar as I thought to each other. So yeah, it's going to be a shifting thing. So on day 15 I drew tidings, which is this one, vermal and echoism, and although they're kind of similar, the reason I put them together was they've all got these once you've got the base shapes down, and it's different for each tangle, they've all got these radiating auras, so all you're doing is auraing around the shapes until all the auras touch and you're just moving out. So I've joined them up here with says, because says is created in the same way, just with dots. So the kind of the progression is from says, which is just very simple dots. Vermal is sort of interesting 2D shapes, and then aura around, some straight line ones, some bigger kind of orbs and C shapes. So I'm not sure that that's a set thing. Obviously the part of the tangle is the aura around each of the shapes till they all join up. Tidings is similar, but we start with this curvy S shape, which is kind of like a fescue. It's got like little fescue ends, so they're just like randomly placed S's, and then we aura around. And echoism again is next to tidings, because again it's a bit of an S shape. It's an interesting continual line, so it's like a backwards and forwards. It actually crosses over, which is unusual for lines in tangles, but I don't have that many crossing lines. But this is like if you were imagining doing some cursive, maybe the S or the L, and then again we're auraing around that shape, sort of with radiating auras, which just move out and move out. I think you could probably do echoism without the auras. I think echoism is possibly just mainly the line, and the auras are kind of a added extra. But anyway, it's in there with those. They're not attached to anything else, just because I'm not quite sure how they fit with other tangles yet. Day 16, jumped into something very different. We had jonquil, shui, and strockles, which are all sort of big black and white areas. Jonquil and shui are straight line tangles, and strockles has the wavy lines and the orbs, but they're all they've all got that distinctive large black areas, large white areas. And so I've sat them next to Knightsbridge, which is the same. So it's like the repeat here is alternate. So we're alternating between black and white. We're alternating between black and white each time. So those ones definitely all sit together somehow. I really like shui. I hardly ever draw it, but I realised how much I really like it. It's very clever the way the arrows tessellate together. Okay, day 17, something different again. We had all the orbs with quipple and onomato, if that's how you say it, and perk. And I've sat them with tipple because they are just progressions of tipple. Quipple being just, sounds a lot like tipple. Just a more organised way of drawing tipple, really. So you've got your big orbs and then your small orbs around. Onomato again, it's like a ribbon of tipple drawn in a more prescriptive way than maybe even than quipple, and then perk, which fits rather than into a ribbon shape, fits into a space, and kind of uses some S shapes as well in there to define the areas for the small orbs. But those kind of all sit together in my mind. And day 18, I started on some grid tangles. So jumping over here, we've got Yinka and Bucky and Be Light. Oh, and that was the 3 for the day. So I've put them all in a row. They're all grids, but they've all got like aurid lines in them. Be Light feels to me very much like Crescent Moon in a grid. The auras, they all sit at the same angles, although they could alternate. Yin Cut is alternating like horizontal and vertical auras, which kind of reminded me a little bit of Kiko with its alternating auras. And then Bucky kind of felt a little bit like Swarm, because you create these triangle-y shapes. You divide your grid into triangles, and then you're just breaking up the space, and then you've got these angled auras, which seemed a little bit like Swarm. So they've sat those ones in those positions. Oh, yes, day 19. Day 19 was Flukes and Cubine, which I've left without the shading, just because nothing's got any shading on at the moment. I know Cubine's shading is integral to its design, but I have left it off at the moment. Dex and Duke, which is all the way over here. So let's just have a quick look at those. Flukes felt like a kind of a straight line version of Be Light. Again, a straight line version of kind of Crescent Moon. And very, very similar to Cubine in that the little square sits in one corner. So these two are very similar in different ways than these ones. So that's why we've kind of positioned them like that. Dex. Now Dex, when you look at the step out, doesn't start as a grid tangle, but I always draw it as a grid tangle anyway. Has the little square in the centre of the grid boxes, and then goes from there with some auras. Very geometric. These ones are all very geometric. And then finally Stoic, which again has this little square start in the middle of the box of each grid, and then this is more of a weave, which I haven't even touched on yet, so that may sit near some other woven tangles when I get around to drawing them. Right, and the final lot, apart from the ones I've drawn today, yesterday's tangles were Enzeppel, which I've sat by Patina just because the beginnings of it were very, very similar. Oh, and I forgot about Duke, sorry. Oh no, that was yesterday's. Yes, okay. So Enzeppel, we sat by Bettina because we started with the squares, and then we divided up, and we got exactly the same kind of starting position, and then this one gets its dots and this one gets its curve, its line that curves around. This is very unusual. There isn't any other tangles, I don't think, where you're retracing lines over the top, so it's got to sit somewhere though. What else? Yeah, these are a bit eclectic, these ones, just because we're getting to the end of the grids and they didn't really go with each other particularly, but I just wanted to get them all done. Duke. Now, Duke is next to Jongle, but maybe it should sit up here, next to Knightsbridge, because it's a bit more complex, but it does have that alternating. So you've got like a square with a diamond in, and then a square with a diamond in, but the way that you colour them or add auras or whatever alternates. So it's very similar. It's very geometric, but it feels a little bit like a Knightsbridge kind of tangle. Iowa, again, this is another alternating. So if you look at like Cubine, you do the same thing in each box. With Iowa, you're alternating, like with, so this might not sit there eventually. Like with Knightsbridge, you're alternating the black and the white, you're alternating the black. This is just the design in each box is, the motif is slightly more complex because we've got this, I suppose, this eye shape. But it's like a little bit of Bales, really, a little rice shape. So yeah, again, another very dramatic, large areas of black and white sitting near these other ones like so. And that was it. So today I've drawn Doodah and Mere and Shattuck. Here they are, but I don't know where they're going to sit in relation to anything else that's here. So other than maybe, that feels a little like that. So we'll see. We will see how it develops. It's all a very interesting journey. Very interesting. Catch me again next week for another roundup. Look out for my photos during the week, and I will see you all then. Bye.